Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the new episode of the Myles High Podcast. My name is Myles Munroe Jr. I just want to welcome you on this podcast. The vision and goal is always to entertain, educate, and elevate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist. Always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. All right, welcome everyone. Feeling good today. This is going to be a cool little pod. For this episode, I was reviewing past episodes, and I did this episode. One of my previous episodes was on the 5 most important questions, right? And we got a lot of feedback from that particular episode, a lot of comments, a lot of questions, and I wanted to dive deeper into those 5 questions and the importance of it, right? So ultimately, we're discussing purpose, right? And the 5 questions that I'm referring to, well, first of all, I wanted to say that my dad wrote a book. It's called Unleash Your Purpose. And it really deals with discovering purpose and how to discover purpose. And these 5 questions are a large part of the book, right? And it goes into depth of explaining exactly how to discover purpose, what to look for in discovering purpose, how potential works with purpose, how vision works with purpose, and all of these things. So if you get an opportunity, if you haven't gotten that book as yet, I'd encourage you to get it because it has helped me and still continues to help me to this day. So again, the book is called Unleash Your Purpose. It's available on our website, monroeglobal.com, or any other website you want to get it from. But if you want to get it from us, it's there. All right. So I wanted to take a deeper dive into these 5 questions, right? So the 5 questions are: who am I? Where am I from? What can I do? Why am I here? Where am I going? Right? And the first question, who am I? It deals with identity, right? It deals with us understanding who we are as individuals. You know, growing up, we don't really have an identity, an established identity for ourselves, right? I know that there are a lot of persons, you know, as teenagers or young adults, like still trying to discover themselves. Like I can remember when I was a teenager or a young adult, didn't really know who I was, right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing because it is a process of discovering and being able to answer that question. And you know, one of my idols, or one of the persons that I looked up to was Allen Iverson, right? And I'm sure like he inspired a whole generation of youth, in especially in the mid 90s, right? With the cornrows and the baggy clothes. Like I did all of that. Like I saw pictures of me recently where like I had on a headband, I had a large NBA jersey on, and some like big loose fit jeans, and just looking stupid, right? But that's where I guess the society was and fashion was at that point, and you know, still trying to discover myself. Like I saw myself like going into those fights, and I could remember like my dad wouldn't necessarily say anything about the way that I dressed, but I could tell it was him hoping that, man, one day he is going to get out of this phase. Like I could like see him praying, like, cause I used to sag my pants. I used to like wear baggy clothes. I used to wear cornrows. Like I had cornrows in my head, and my head is like a little big. So anyway, it's neither here nor there. I'm just saying in this who am I question and trying to find your identity. Like when we don't know our identity, we try to attach our identity to others. And I've been through that experience, so it's something that's real and true. But I grew and developed into who I knew I was and who I wanted to be, right? And I defined my identity for myself. You know, I was watching an interview that there's this Canadian journalist who interviews music artists. His name is Nadwar. And he did this interview with Jay-Z one time. And in the interview, he he asked Jay-Z, he asked everyone that he interviews, the first question that he asked is, who are you, right? So he asked Jay-Z, who are you? And Jay-Z's response always stood out to me, right? So he asked Jay-Z, who are you? His response was, I'm a kid from New York, Brooklyn, from the Marcy Projects, that made it from a tough environment. And, I made it to be able to achieve what people would call the American dream. And, coming from my environment, I am not someone that should have made it here. A lot of people don't make it to where I've made it, once they came from the same backgrounds that I came from. And he just gave this spill of like where he came from and what he's been able to accomplish and like the vision that he had set out for himself. And so once he finished, Nardwuar pulled the mic to himself and was like, so you're Jay-Z, right? So in other words, like, yeah, you said all of that, but your name is Jay-Z. And Jay-Z's response to that was, oh, so I thought that was a deeper question. Like, you're asking me, like, who I am, like, my name. And he was like, yeah, my name is Jay-Z, right? And I took that for him saying, like, man, yeah, my name is Jay-Z, but I'm not, my name doesn't make me who I am. It isn't the definition of my identity, right? And that always stood out to me. And it just, like, you get an understanding of like why individuals like him are so successful. And it's because they know who they are, right? They're grounded and founded in their identity and being able to answer this who am I question. And, I hope all of us are able to get there at some point in life. For those of you trying to discover who you are, like, be intentional about answering that question, because it took me some time, right? I talked about how I had to go through the stages of finding out who I was as an individual. But you eventually get there, right? I know who I am. I'm confident in who I am. The way that I carry myself, the way that I present myself. There's a confidence about it, and once you are able to answer that "who am I" question, you become confident, and there's no one that can define you because you know who you are, right? And I think once we can get to that stage in life where we're able to answer that question, it'll be so much easier for us to answer these other questions, right? So who am I is a question of identity, right? Question number 2 is, where am I from? And that's a question of source, right? And it's not asking like, who are your parents? Where were you born? What country are you from? Like, none of that. It's from whom were you created, right? And that takes us back to our source, our ultimate source, right? Which is God. And I think for us to really understand why we're here and what we can do, we have to go back to the source, right? So it's like any product that's produced, right? There's a manual that comes with that product. And in order for us to know what that product was made for and what the capabilities of that product is, we have to go back to the source, right? And the person that created that product provides us a manual so that we can understand exactly what this product was made for and what this product is able to do. So for us to discover what we're able to do and why we were created, we have to tap into our source. And that means we have to have a relationship with God, develop a relationship with God. And I think this is one of the most important steps, right? Because it'll be impossible for us to answer these questions if we don't know where we come from, right? Like if our source stops at our parents, then we're going to miss the mark, right? Because our source is much more greater, much more higher than our parents and just our parents or the place that we were born in or the environment that we come from. So where I'm from is a question of source. What can I do? That's the third question. What can I do? That's a question of potential, right? And that answers the abilities and the talents and the seed that has been placed within you. And again, this is just trying to figure out, like, what is it that I am good at? What talents do I have? What gifts do I recognize and would like to develop? And we are multi-talented. I've said this in quite a number of episodes already, a number of pods. And I want to continue saying this because we were not just created to to display one gift or one talent, right? We are multi-talented, and I also think we're multi-purposed, right? And we're going to get into that a bit later. But we are multi-gifted, multi-talented individuals, right? We have great potential, and it's up to us to really discover all of the gifts and all of the talents that we've been given so that we can develop them and ultimately move on to the next question, which is, why am I here? The why for our life. And this is a question of purpose. And to me, this is the most important question that you can answer, right? Because nothing makes sense. Nothing is going to be accomplished in your life that is fulfilling until we can answer this why question, this why for our lives. And it's a question of purpose. It's digging deep, trying to discover and develop from within the why for our lives. Why am I here? What is it that I have been placed on this earth to accomplish, right? And then the final question is, where am I going? And that's a question of destiny, right? And it's the question where we answer once we've figured out, or we'll be able to answer once we've figured out the why for our lives, right? Like once you understand your purpose, like you get these visions in your mind of what the bigger picture is, right? What the destiny looks like. And that vision that you get may be something that you may not be able to fathom, right? Because of your circumstances or where you are at the moment. But know that because you've gotten that vision that you see, because of you've discovered and understand what your gifts are, what you're talented at, and you make that pursuit to discover and develop the why and figure out what your purpose is, you start getting these visions and these mental pictures of what the possibilities are, right? And where you as an individual can take everything that you have in life in the long run. And that's simply because of the destiny or the trajectory that you've been put on. And I think it'd be good to point out to say that because you've been given the vision, then know that everything you need to complete the vision is already within you. And it's just up to you to discover it. And I know that that statement can sound so cliche, right? Because we kind of focus on where we are in the moment. And we're only seeing with our physical eyes, right? Like we see our environments, we see the individuals that we're around, we see the limitations that may exist around us. But being mindful of the not looking with our physical eyes, but looking with our mental eyes, like the eyes that see higher and that see further from what we can see physically, and that comes through vision, then we're able to push forward, right? And even if you don't have an idea of how this is going to happen, I'm getting these mental pictures of seeing myself doing amazing things and greater things than I think I'm even able to accomplish or should be able to accomplish. But know that because you're receiving those visions and have those visions, the potential is there, right? Everything you need to accomplish those visions are already in front of you, and I want to point out here that these questions are by no means easy to answer, right? And there's no time limit on when they should be answered, right? Because I think we have to be intentional about discovering and being able to answer these questions. And so we have to, first of all, tapping into our source is very important. Because like I said, if you don't know where you're from, right? Where you're sourced from, then you may tap in or plug into a source that you may think is your source, but it's an incorrect source, right? So you're going to be feeding yourself a bunch of garbage, a bunch of negative stuff that aren't a part of what your makeup is, right? And it's going to make finding out these questions or answering these questions difficult. So I think being able to take your time and not rush answering these questions, right? But really focusing in on each and every one of them. Like I could remember when I had met with one of my mentors, and I was really getting adamant about, in this stage of my life, especially trying to figure out, okay, what's this why for my life? And I just remember him pushing me, right? Because I physically wrote the why for my life, or what I felt the why was, based off my talents and my potential. And he would like, nah, this is good, but you could be a bit more specific. You could be a lot more detailed in discovering your purpose, because your purpose, like, we all were placed here to accomplish a specific thing for a specific group of individuals, right? All of us don't have the same purposes. All of us weren't placed here to tap into a global agenda, right? Not a global purpose, right? Some of us are meant to service our communities, our individual countries, our families, our churches. Like, there's so many avenues and so many areas where our purpose can lie and that we can tap into, and really being able to be as detailed as possible in figuring out the why for our life. I think it'll help us to know that it takes time. It takes time to live a little, learn a lot, and be able to make mistakes and continue to develop as individuals, so that we're able to answer these 5 important questions, right? So again, we have who am I, which is a question of identity. We have where am I from? It was a question of source. What can I do? A question of potential. Why am I here? A question of purpose. And where am I going? A question of destiny. And again, these questions are difficult. They aren't the easiest questions to answer, because there isn't one answer for everyone, and there isn't a simple answer for these questions, right? It comes with discovering ourselves and developing ourselves and continuing to develop ourselves in hopes that ultimately we're going to reach our destination in the long run, right? So with that, I just wanted to share that, right? And then there have been a lot of other questions that we've gotten on this same topic. So I wanted to open it up to answer a few of those questions and just highlight some of the ones that stood out to me, and just to share my thoughts and my advice on those particular questions. So Sharice is going to help me out.
So the first question is, I am doing too many things and I'm not sure what my purpose is anymore.
So, I mean, this is a popular question, right? And I think people get frustrated because, again, they're so multi-talented and multi-gifted. And my recommendation has always been to, like, find a commonality with your gifts, right? Find the thing that connects all of your gifts, or the gift that is most. You can either do that, like find a thing that connects all of your gifts, or choose the gift or go with the gift that is most important to you, that fulfills you the most, right? Because again, we are multi-purposed, right? And as we develop in our lives and we go through the process of living out our purpose, sometimes our purpose shifts, right? And every stage in our life, every year that we get older, we develop and transition into another phase, and that new phase may bring on a new purpose for our lives. So it could be frustrating, and I think sometimes we are afraid to let go of the purpose that is finished, right? We want to hold on to something that we should recognize that we've accomplished, right? We've fulfilled, and we need to now move on to that next step, the next purpose for our lives. So the frustration could be that you've completed a step or completed a process in your purpose journey, and now you need to start developing and looking at a new purpose life, a new purpose journey. Or it could be that you're getting overwhelmed with the gifts and the potential that you have, right? And again, the focus should be either focusing on the connectivity between all of those gifts, like what ties all of these gifts together? What can I do to center everything and progress forward in purpose? Or which one of these gifts stands out to me, like really pushes me and affects me in a way that I want to sacrifice everything I have for it?
Okay, the next question is, do you think someone can have more than one purpose in life?
Absolutely. I mean, I just kind of spoke on that in saying that we are multi-purposed, multi-talented individuals. We can definitely have multiple purposes. And I feel like, again, through each stage of our lives, like there's a purpose there. Like there's a purpose that we're supposed to discover, right? So for me, personally, as a teenager, I feel like I had a designated purpose. Living as a young adult, working with my dad, doing the things that I was doing at the time, like there was a purpose there. It was purpose filled. And now I'm at a stage where my parents aren't here, and I've now rediscovered a new purpose for my life. Right, so I feel like every phase that we go through in life, there's a purpose for it. Like we're not just here to do and accomplish one thing. I think there are multiple things we're supposed to accomplish, and that's the reason why we've been given multiple seeds.
Okay, question. Not sure if you've answered this before, but it may be in a different way. How do you distinguish between your gift and your purpose? Are they the same?
No, there's a distinct difference between your gift and your purpose. Your gift, so I like to channel, like LeBron is a good example of this, right? So LeBron has a gift of basketball, and he has like basketball smarts, the skill, the talent to play the game of basketball. But his purpose isn't to play the game of basketball, right? Basketball, the Bible says your gift will make room for you in this world, right? So basketball has allowed LeBron to gain influence and impact while playing the game, but be able to influence outside of the game, right? Persons who may not even watch basketball, right? But they know who LeBron is because of the impact that he has. Now, everyone might not have as big of an impact as LeBron, but your gifts allows you to have that impact. Now, the purpose, your life's purpose could be tied to something different, right? Because, you look at LeBron, he has a nonprofit where he helps underprivileged kids in the communities in his home city, right, in Ohio, where he came from. And he does all of these charitable stuff that influences and impacts younger individuals, and he's assisting the next generation, right? I feel like that journey that he's on is purpose-filled, right? And his gifts and talents has allowed him to do that. So I think, and that's why I'm saying, like, once we can establish what our gifts are, right? Our gifts makes us successful, but then once we achieve that level of success, then we need to start like living life on purpose, like, because the success, isn't the end all be all, right? There's still going to be an emptiness if you're not living in purpose, right? And you need to figure out, well, what, like, my gifts has allowed me to gain an audience with these individuals, or attain a level of success where I'm financially stable now. Like, there are different levels of success that we all define individually, but whatever that is, I think we then need to look into a little deeper into our hearts and really figure out, like, okay, what am I passionate about? Like, what is it that I want to do that I can do for the rest of my life, and it doesn't take away from me because I'm pouring into others. So there is a difference, yes, between your gifts and your purpose.
Okay. Some people don't know that life is about finding purpose. What is your advice to those people? How do they, know that you should have a purpose in life?
I think we all come to a point where we gain a knowledge of life is about so much more, right? And that comes with the journey of life and the information that we've been able to attain, the experiences that we've been able to have. Because I know, like, a lot of times there are a lot of people who feel like, man, like, I don't know why I'm here. I can't answer this why for my life. And I think, an individual that asks a question like that just haven't discovered the why for themselves. So it doesn't mean that you're not purpose-filled. It just means that you haven't discovered or answered the why am I here question as yet. And it takes time. Like, be patient. I think it's important for us to put the right people around us. So we should have our personal mentors. We should have our spiritual mentors, those individuals that pour into us and challenge us to be better, to continue to develop ourselves. Because we can't do this alone, right? There's no way that we are able to accomplish what we can accomplish and develop ourselves the way we need to develop ourselves if we're going about it alone. Like, it takes a community, it takes a team, it takes numerous individuals to not only discover purpose, right, but to live out purpose, because there's someone out there that is attached to your purpose and you're hindering them from being able to be purpose-filled because you're not you're not being a little more intentional about discovering your purpose, right? And that's something that I truly believe. There are individuals out there that were sent there, and their purpose were to help us, right, in our purpose. But they're stagnant or they're dormant right now because the vision that we have, we're not acting on it. We're not moving forward in the process. And I feel like once we start taking these small steps, like things will start making sense.
Okay. What are some of your favorite tools to help find your purpose?
So information, read as many books, and talk to as much individuals that you can, like individuals that you see are living and that you can tell are living in purpose, right? So that can come with like mentorship, that can come with guidance, just getting advice. Obviously, getting books for information, watching some DVDs on different topics that interest you, right? That play on your gifts, that plays on your potential. I think that an easy way to really discover purpose is to like figure out what your gifts are and develop those, right? That's like for individuals who find it hard to really like understand and accomplish purpose. Like the first thing I would tell you to do is like look at yourself and see what it is that you're good at. What is it that I can do, right? Answer that question. What are my gifts? What are the talents that I have? What am I passionate about? But keep in mind, like, right, like what you're passionate about and what you're gifted at could be two different things. And I don't want us to confuse that, right? Because you can be passionate about something you're not good at, and you're not going to be successful at it. But you can be good at something that you're not passionate about, but it can lead you to purpose because you're good at it. So just discover those gifts. Start with your gifts, right? And I think once we're able to tap into what our gifts are and start to develop our gifts, we'll be on a good path to the discovering purpose.
Books on purpose that you think you can recommend? So
my wife is trying to tell me to recommend my dad's books on purpose, Unleash Your Purpose. Oh man. And there are a lot of other books, right? So my dad did this series on potential, understanding, releasing, and maximizing your potential. And there are numerous of like books out there. Think and Grow Rich. The Richest Man in Babylon, like that was a good book. I read that book in college, and like that book changed my perspective on like a lot of stuff.
The Secret, right?
The Secret. Yes, The Secret is a good book. I've read it, but I feel Unleash Your Purpose is a better book. But that's just me being biased. There's this book called The Superior Mind. I can't remember the name of the author, man, but that book. And that book, The
Superior Mind.
The Superior Mind. That book.
David Deida,
yes. The Superior Mind talks to individuals who have a lot of influence and a lot of impact on other people, right? Because you're a person with power, and it just kind of shows how you are supposed to use. You're not supposed to take advantage of that power and advantage of that influence. It's a good book. So I recommend those books as well. But, there are a lot of books that I'll recommend. What I'll do in one of these episodes, like I'll just recommend a list of like my favorite books that I've read and I continue to read, just to share like, how my library looks.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So no more questions.
I think you've answered most of them, but someone wants to know what have been your steps specifically to finding your purpose, and I think you kind of talked about some of them, like mentorship and. So
again, the first thing was discovering my gifts, right? I tried to figure out what I was good at, and I realized that everything tied back to business. Like I loved business, I was good. I feel like I had the skill level for developing like new ideas and bringing them to life, but mentoring is the most important thing to me. In this journey that I've been on. I think having individuals around us with more experience and more knowledge of the things that we want to be experienced and knowledge in allows us to grow, right? And submitting to those individuals and allowing them to help us to grow and develop in purpose with our gifts to figure out, this journey of life that we're on and how exactly we're supposed to go about it. I think mentoring has helped me, and then just continuing to learn, man, to the desire to learn, right? And I'm always reading. Like I enjoy reading. I enjoy gaining new information, like learning from others. I feel like, books are such a good source of information because it tells us, it gives someone else's experience on like how they accomplish something. And there's always a good nugget or a good principle that we can take away and apply to our lives or apply to something that we're doing or that we want to do that can be successful just simply because we got that information. So those are, just a few things I use or I've used in this discovery of purpose for my life.
Okay, I have one more. How do you find joy in the waiting season?
So I got a good analogy, right? So everything goes in seasons, right? There's a season. I talked about this again in another pod, right? But there's a season of harvest and a season of planting. There's a season of happiness, a season of sadness. Like our entire life goes in seasons, right? So just like, the seed that produces fruit, that produces a tree that produces a fruit, that fruit tree doesn't produce all year round, right? Like there's a season where there's no fruit that's bearing on that tree. And if you're in that season, that particular season where you see that you're not being fruitful, right? I always say like those are the seasons where we're supposed to be working on ourselves intentionally. Like when you feel like things aren't going your way, or you aren't like you're stagnant, or you're dormant, or you aren't moving the way you would like to move, or you aren't as successful as you were last year, or you aren't moving like you were the year before. I think that those are the seasons that we are to anchor down and like just work on ourselves, man. Like that's the season of growth. That's where we experience growth. We experience more growth in hard times than we experience in success, right? Because the success is the result of what we do in these hard times. So when we're in a down season, don't look at it as a down season, right? Look at it as a season of rest. Look at it as a season of regeneration. Look at it as a season of learning and development, right? Because you have the fruit tree that doesn't bear fruit, but even in that season, like it's growing stronger, it's gaining more nutrients, it's getting the thing that it needs to prepare for the next fruitful season that it's going to experience. And I feel like as humans and as individuals, we go through that same cycle. We go through those points in our lives where, and again, we're being prepared for the next step, the next promotion, the next successful period or fruitful period in our lives. So don't look at it as a dormant season. Don't look at it as, you're being stagnant. Don't look at it as a negative thing, right? I try to, again, always find the silver lining in everything that I go through, because I truly believe like nothing changes until your mind changes, right? So the perspective that you have of life and how life happens for you, it determines your response to it and the outcome that you're going to experience. So let's not look at it as a negative thing, because it's something that we must go through and will go through in every season of our life.
Not a question, but a comment based on the analogy of the tree. Even though you're not providing fruit, you can provide shade.
That's right. And that's actually a good point that I forgot to mention. So sometimes in those seasons of non-fruitfulness, right? Those are the times we should be pouring into others, right? Instead of taking away and being successful in, or trying to be successful in what we do, that's the time where we're supposed to make others successful. And, that will probably be the catalyst that allows us to spin into our next season of fruitfulness. So definitely, be a shade for someone else. The tree has multiple purposes, right? Depending on who's at the tree. Like some people come to the tree for shade. Some people come to the tree for nourishment. Some people come to the tree to pick the leaves to make clothing. Like that could be far-fetched, but again, I'm just trying to give examples of and again, this speaks to us being multi-purposed, right? So our gifts and talents aren't only geared towards accomplishing one goal. Like we can service quite a number of individuals just based off our perspective on where we are in our lives. Perfect. So thank you. I really just wanted to share what the response that we got to that initial episode, and I just I felt moved to have this conversation because I think finding purpose is like one of the most important things we can do in our lives, and being able to answer these 5 questions and then figure out how to continually answer them in each stage of our lives, the processes that we go through, is very important. So just wanted to have that talk. So this brings us to the milestone portion of the pod. As always, I want to leave you with a word that you can just think on, right, and apply to your lives, right. And today's milestone is super simple: die empty, right. As you can see, I'm wearing a shirt that says "Don't die old, die empty," or it alludes to "Don't die old, die empty." But this is the message that I want to portray, right? Especially when we talk about like purpose and living a purpose life, right? We have been given a gift of life, right? And with that gift, we should be re-gifting ourselves and transferring that gift to others. And the only way that we can do that is if we lived a purpose-filled life. And every purpose, every gift that we've been given, all the purposes that we've been placed on this earth for, it's important for us to fulfill. So every song that we're supposed to write, every song we're supposed to sing, every book we're supposed to write, everything that we're supposed to do, let's try and get it done, guys. Let's die empty. Let's embarrass the grave, right? Let's disappoint the grave because we're going to be living purpose-filled, right? So die empty. Make that the goal of yourself for the rest of your life, to live out your purpose on this earth. Okay? And that brings us to the end of this pod. Thank you guys for hanging out. Shout out to my wife for being a good
wing woman.
A good contributor. That's the word I was looking for. A good contributor to this pod. Thank you, my love.
You're welcome.
To all of you out there, as you know, the purpose of this pod is to entertain, elevate, and educate you miles high above your fears, your doubts, and any limitations that you may think exist, but always knowing that those limitations only exist in your mind. Okay? So thank you, and I'll see you next time. You guys stay blessed.